Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to prepare and start working on another square for my Japanese rice bag that is in the style of Shabby Chic. So if we rewind a little bit, let me bring the camera up. If we rewind a little bit, this was the first one I made using Japanese style of stitching and exploring the concept of the Japanese rice bag. The only thing different is I've made mine a little bit more rustic with all the seams showing, and it's all hand stitched. So roll forward to now, and I actually at the time cut out 3. So I did a French one, the Japanese one, and this Shabby Chic one. This one's taking a little bit longer because when I did the lining, I said at the time that I'm just going to have the squares prepped, and whenever I see something that catches my attention that I want to explore, one side can be something from, caught my attention. So it all kicked off with this one. It was the stringy quilt, which I saw, well, it popped up around the same time on multiple channels, but probably Annie Claxton was the one that really inspired me to say, right, let's have a play with this, laying down all of the fabrics around the center. And no, actually rewind a little bit again, is we did these little sections and then connected it all together, and then I slow stitched over it and put lots of different little elements, ribbons and things like that. Then came weaving. Now I did this with the Anne Brooks 52 tags way back in 2020, where I learnt the technique of weaving through different fabrics and laces and trims to create a new fabric as such. So I've got spare. One will be the bottom. So I'm yet to decide what I'm going to do on the bottom. I usually just pick a fabric that suits and then just camphor stitch or borrow or running stitch it through. So, and then I've still got one left. Well, I'm feeling ready to do another one, and the one that's been in my mind is the log cabin. Now, a few months ago, I did a log cabin in the style of Mandy Patchouli, which is that free form, make it look old, just messy cut, sort of, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like the quilting days where we used to have our set square out and our cutting knives and just straight and to the T, everything was measured. It was a little bit more freeform, and I really enjoyed it. So I've always had in the back of my mind that when I felt like doing another one, it was going to be a log cabin. So let's begin. So the old log cabin, and I've got a few little scraps from the previous, and I've got my jelly roll. Okay, so I can pretty much, got my pins, yeah, scissors are handy. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is I'm not going to join them like on a sewing machine. I'm going to do like I did with the Vintage Blend Susanna's prompt, where I was very free form, and that's what I just showed you in the book. So we need something to kick us off. So I'm just going to have a look through the fabric. I sort of want to make a bit of a feature in the center. There's a bit of a floral trim in amongst this, a floral fabric, and there's a bird. I do have a bird here, and I have had him earmarked. Would I lose too much of the bird in the process of going around the log cabin? Should I just pick some flowers? There are flowers just there. I saw them in the cream as well. So I guess I'm looking for something to be my feature in the center. Sort of to kick us off. I haven't used that stripe yet. That's pretty. That's that fabric. I'm wondering if I could get something quite bold. So I could use that there. but that's pretty. Oh, these jelly rolls, once I unwind this, it's just going to explode. Last time I did the video on this, it's probably a month ago now, it took me 20 minutes just to get the fabric back in order. But they're pretty good value, the old jelly roll. See, that little flower there would work. At least it's bright enough. This one I do like, but it's a bit washed out and I think it might get a bit lost. I could do the bird, but I think by the time we lose a bit of his wing, he might not look real obvious that he's even there. He might be better just stitched on as a decorative piece. Let's have a look. There's another one there. Is that one better? I think this one's better. So let's just cut ourselves a square, rectangle, whatever it may be. That's going to be our center. We could be a little tricky and go off center. It's not really a log cabin then, is it? Then we need fabric to start building up our sides. A little bit of pink. Might have to go that side first. And we want it rough edge looking. So let's just overlap. Do we overlap, or are we going to actually do it like a log cabin? Will we get the messy feel? I think we will. I think we'll do it like a log cabin, but I don't know. Let me grab a needle and thread and let's just have a little stitch and see what happens. So the classic log cabin is you start on one edge and then you just work around. So I won't pin it because I think I can just hold it with my fingers. Now when I start, I'm going to do a little bit of a back stitch on myself so that this will work. So I'm doing the tiniest of seams purely because I want as much fabric as possible. Like we don't have a very big area. So I'm doing, it's probably 1/8 of an inch, 1/8, and just back stitching as we go. So that's how I believe this little log cabin will come together. Oops. I'm heading over to a mate's place for dinner. So I thought I'll take something with me to stitch. And this is a good little traveling project. It's gone with me on a few little trips in the past if I've gone away for the weekend or something like that. So I thought I'll get it started. It does come together reasonably quickly. Now you can do this on your sewing machine. If you're a bit of a quilter, you might whip out the sewing machine and just run this around. But you don't need to in a little project like this. If you were doing a big quilt, I guess you probably could look back in the day. They would have done this by hand. You can see my stitching is a little bit crooked, but I'm okay with that because that's where that Mandy Patchouli, gosh, I know I'm not saying her name right. Gosh, when I see her name pop up on YouTube videos, everyone just says it differently. Okay. So there's our first little piece of fabric on. So I'm going to trim that. And then we open up our panel and we finger press that down. So then we can do the next side. Now preferably we'd want a different colour. And most of these bits here are blue. So I'm going to have to make a mess. I'm just going to have to look like I could do with a cream. Oh my goodness, here it goes. Let it loose. Go on. Just do it. Just explode onto my desk. So I've used that one. Here's a cream. So I might trim it. And I guess the next decision is how big of a strip do we want? I'd like them all to be a little bit different. Oh, Bandit. Seriously, that dog, when he knows I'm about to hit record, he decides to give a bit of a woof. Now this is a little bit longer, so I might actually pop a pin in it. Then I will start decorating. Let's get the base all built out, and then maybe through some ditch stitch where I throw little stitches into all of these little creases. I'll use that to attach it to my background, I think is what I might do. That'll at least get it down. Probably could do it on the fabric. So away we go again. So nice and simple, really. Very effective. When you see some of the old quilts that are log cabin that Mandy has found, and then she's added her elements in doing this sort of process. She's got them in her book. It's really neat. And when I did the prompt with Susanna Vintage Blend Studio, exploring old vintage techniques that we've sort of loved and forgotten maybe, the log cabin was definitely came up really well. And I think in one of the other videos where I was creating the scrappy side and those other two, the weaving, I said to use any suggestions of what technique we could explore. Log cabin was the most commented one to try. So I'm trying to do a straightish line here and talk. Come on. Try and not make my stitches too big. I don't want it to be gapping, like falling apart, but I don't want to be here all night either. Oops. To get some more thread. Could probably even get away with just a running stitch, but I'm doing a little back stitch just to make sure it's... Might just end this off. Get myself some more cotton. Okay. Oh, now Pepper's going to have a little woof. It's those walkers. How dare they come into the street? Luckily, my two can't access the front yard, so they're not getting a direct, which is nothing worse than you're walking your dog and dogs come flying at you and then run the boundary. It's very unpleasant for the walkers. So my two can't get to the front. They just get to the side of the house, but even that's still a little way. Okay. That's looking good. Now I should technically pull my iron out and iron as we go, but I'm not going to because I want that rough stitched look. I don't want it too flat and perfect. Trying to avoid that. Okay. Oh, now they're just goosing. Can you hear them? So they get all excited and then they start, well, Bandit goes and gets one of his toys and then he starts bounding around like a goose, wanting Pepper to chase him. She's like, I don't want to. And he's like, come on. So he's trying to encourage her. Now she's at the window looking at me. Hey, Pepper. Tail wagging. Okay, so once again, we're going to finger press it. That's enough to hold it. And then, see how it's nice and wonky? That's that, you know, free flow, artistic, too similar, artistic look. Is that what we're going for? The artistic look? I haven't used this fabric in any of the squares. I find it quite bold. There they go again. See, she's chasing him for the toy. I tell you, oh, to be a puppy dog. So do we want it as big as that? I don't know. If I could, I would rip this fabric, but it's a very dense, good quality quilt fabric. So it's just a little tricky to tear it. So once again, a couple pins because it is getting a little long. Longer, bigger, squarer. Might come to this side. Great little project. I'm really loving how I've taken my time with this particular rice bag and just waited for things that went, oh, that'd be fun to play with, and then created my next side. I had a visitor from a dear friend, and she and I spent a bit of time just sitting in my room here and just chatting, and she's a very talented stitcher herself. Hi, Jill. And we were just talking about what we've experienced and what stitching means to us, and how I think both of us pretty much found slow stitch and the world of embroidery around about the same time. It was pretty much when the pandemic hit, and it was like time out, wasn't it? It was like we just got a moment to ourselves to sit and do something real simple, because we were all going, you know, a bit stir crazy over the whole pandemic experience, and the stitching world, I think, really exploded. And I was already watching Rachel with the whole junk journal experience and participating and following and just enjoying that experience, because I hadn't hadn't used paper crafting for ages, too busy working. So that come along, and then Rachel started showing some pieces that she was working on from Jessie Chorley, which then sends you to Instagram and you see Jessie Chorley's work, and then I found Anne Brooks, and then her Sew for the Soul popped up, and it just, down the rabbit hole I fell. And it pretty much was the same for Jill. And Jill mentioned that she's within the industry that was dealing on the front line of the whole COVID experience with these dear elderly people not well. And as a nurse, you can imagine her experience. So stitching was just, oh, how rude. Stitching was like a relief to her soul. So we were just talking about that and what it means to us. And yeah, it was such a lovely way just to reflect. And she was also, she said, just like I, oh, goodness sakes, those pair. She said how she really hasn't got a lot of friends that are into this whole stitching, and we were joking saying, yeah, some of mine will get to the door of my room and they'll just stand there and look in and go, oh yes, that's lovely. You can just see on their face, their forehead is cringing. You have to go, oh my goodness, I couldn't think of anything worse than going in there. And she was giggling too, that she's got a lot of friends that aren't into this stitching. So it's so good to hang with someone that's right into it. And, spend a couple hours just chatting about who we admire, who influences us. And she had YouTubes that she watches that I hadn't heard of. Oh, for goodness sakes. Gee, they're feisty. Absolutely. So I'm just going to trim this off now. And then fold it back out. And now pick another one. Might go with one that's got a little bit of text on it. I really like this piece. I have to think about how I'm finishing this off. Where am I heading with it? Do we do it off center? Will I fit that there? No, I don't quite, not quite. Just wondering if just thinking about changing the way I'm proceeding here. See, there you go, off the beaten track we go. We could start with something like a pepper. Her bark just reverberates through the whole house. If I was to take that back down to there, if I could get everyday gift in there and take it back down a little bit in size, then we start with this little square and then do a piece there and a piece there. Well, that's something interesting. Why not? Let's just break the rules a little bit here. I'm going to finger press that there because I like what I'm seeing, which means that's where, see how you can manipulate the fabric to suit where you want to go with it. Gosh, we're breaking all those quilting rules, aren't we? Just love it. Just hope I'm not being a bit stingy there, and I'm going to see that white. All right, new cotton. So there'll be 2 more strips we'll need. So we started with a log cabin and now we're heading off on a tangent. purely because the design of the fabric is sort of pushing me that way, and of course the size of the background. So let's just whip down this side, and that'll get our base started. Then we might look at attaching it to the background, and then I'm pretty much ready to start laying down stitches and embellishing the surface to sort of make it look like it's part of the set. So I've still got some threads left. The only thing oh, for goodness sakes. Gee, they're pipey. The only thing I don't have a lot of is the pink ribbon I've been using. So that would be, there's a little bit there, I think. Oh yeah, no, I've got a little bit, so that's not too bad. I've got plenty of the sari silk, so if I'm smart with the placement of the pink ribbon, I might be able to just get a little bit on this side and still have enough for the fourth side. Having said that, I think I've mentioned a few times, I have this little panel here, which is just laid down scraps of fabric to create a background. I think I did it on the cruise for no particular reason. I just had bits left in my little pack of goodies I took along, and I just laid down the background, and haven't even finished stitching. I've never really finished it. And I have tossed around cutting it and doing something here in the way of an embroidery, so that, say the little bag is sitting on a shelf, I would have one side that's looking at me, which could be all embroidered. But I just don't know if I want to do that, because there's plenty of other little block ideas that we could do. So save that piece for just some random stitching, or it goes on to something else. Don't know. It's going to come a point where I need to make a decision, but because I will be on my fourth and final side of my little storage caddy here. So I'm either doing another block, or I make a feature and finish the side with that little panel. Don't know. I'm pretty close to stitching them on too. Maybe that'll help me decide if I start attaching them to the lining. Maybe then I'll get to the empty fourth side and go, it has to be this or that. Who knows? It's not a decision for today. No need to make that decision. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, right to the very end, knot it up. Think how much quicker this would be on the sewing machine. But who could be bothered getting the sewing machine out when we could just stitch it? It's not like it's making a pair of pants or something that's crucial that you get your stitching. Yeah, I do like this. It's nearly a little bit crazy patchwork. Let's get that side trimmed. And then, so this fabric came out in 2020. Hasn't time flown? Okay, so we've snuck in that. So this rose, how are we going to do it? Gosh, could be at least this way. The writing's up the right way. What's it say? What paradise? This way, the flower. I think I like it this way. The flower looks like it's a bunch of flowers. Looks a little bit more, I don't know, correct? Now we need, I'm thinking, something green up the side. Yep. And that one is going to go there. Some more thread. How are we going for time? Plenty of time. Maybe I pause the video and I'll stitch this guy on so that we don't waste our whole time watching me just go round and round in circles. Let me just pin it first. I might pause the video. I will stitch this fellow on. Then I'll decide what colour we run across the top, and then I'll be back. I think, yeah, that's what I'll do. So see you in a moment, guys. Okay, I'm back. So I've attached the final side. I haven't cut it back yet because I would just want to make sure I don't sort of cheat myself of fabric to get to the very end of my base, my pre-prepared base. So the plan now is to stitch it down and start the whole embellishment stage. Now I did toss around the idea of ditch stitching it, but I don't think I will because I don't want it to be nice and neat. We want to build up interest and layers and sort of create some stitches on top of the surface. This is our background. So I've just got a needle and thread here in just good old crochet cotton, my go-to favourite. And I'm just going to start in the corner of the very first square and just do a running stitch. Now that will catch my decorative piece to the back. I guess I could do ditch stitch, but I want to see the process and the layers. So this will just help build them up. So that's the plan, is to ditch stitch, got a thread there, around each piece, or maybe every second piece. The objective is to attach it to the back. Oh, look how crooked that is. Are we going to be fussy? It looks like we are. Don't know what happened there. I started thinking and headed in a different direction. Let's try that again. Gosh, we could be here all night. So a few hours have gone by and our dinner plans got cancelled. So it looks like we're not going out and the evening is nearly here. So my quick attempt to get ourselves a little project to take is not going to be needed. So I will be just doing a bit of stitching at home. It's not exactly straight, doesn't matter. That's it. I could do a little bit of invisible stitch around this just to get it attached, but I'm going to attempt to avoid all of those pins and not jab myself. That one there just about got me, just as I say it. Okay. So this should come together pretty quickly this stage. I might do a couple rows and then we'll start playing with some of the textures because I can't wait. I'm too impatient. That's it. It's like a top stitch, isn't it? That you would do on quilting. Okay, so technically now, where do we go? Do I go to the next piece and follow it around, or do I follow that around? See, this is where it gets fun. I'm going to pop up here and run down that side and make a decision as I go, because I don't know. And I think I'm going to be embellishing it that much that probably I'm putting too much thought into this section. I don't know. Or this step. I'm going to run out of thread. So there's my decision. I'm going to the end of that pink. And that will do. Okay. So I found this lace too when I come back into the room. And I really felt like I wanted to put some of that somewhere. It's fun when you're going looking for your elements to decorate. It's like heading off into the wilderness to find treasures. I think I don't know. What if we go down there and around? That'd be breaking the normal. Let's do that. Why? Just because it looks good at the moment. It's reasonably quick so far. So we're going to step over the seam. So prior I've stayed within each little panel. I think I can get rid of that pin. It's not going to go anywhere. Now I'm drifting my top stitch into the next little panel. Okay. I do like the simplicity of this at the moment, but I know it's going to get awfully busy when you start looking at, gosh, it must be a couple months since I've picked these up. When you start looking at the detail with the gold threads and okay. Maybe I should take this opportunity to use some gold thread because there's not many spots left. I could probably, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to finish what I started. Put a little bit of thread left. Finish this step before I start heading off on the decorating, because then I know I've completed it. The old put the horse before the cart routine. That is so me. I'm looking at some patterns at the moment and chatting to the designers of the patterns, and they've given me the permission to feature them on my channel, and I've got to make the item first so that, you know, I'm not showing how to make the thing. But I've printed them out and I've had a look at them, and my contribution is how to decorate, what to do, and put the Corrine over it. And I'm looking through the patterns, and oh boy, I'm such not a pattern person. And you've really got to read it, think about it, absorb it. Look, I don't even read the instructions if I've got to put together a bookcase. I sort of know what it's going to look like, way I go, and then I get myself into all sorts of trouble. So I'm taking my time. I'm going to spend time reading the pattern properly, and then I'm going to proceed to make the item. You're probably wondering, what is she up to? So then I'm going to make the item, and then it'll be ready to start filming, which is the decoration side of things, and thinking about what I'm going to do to the item. I'd love to tell you, but I don't want to say anything yet because I'm still thinking. If I can't figure out the pattern, may not happen. No, it'll happen. It's not that hard. It's just the concept of reading and following a pattern is hard for me. But if I don't, it will not work. So I have to be a good girl, take the time, study the pattern, instead of just conceptualizing a version of. Can't do that. I can with things like log cabin. Like we started off with the whole log cabin idea, and then off we went on a tangent. That's pretty close. Very close. Okay. Let's run a stitching line through here and up there, and then that'll be the last one. So let's spin that around. Then I think I'm quite comfortable that I could trim it back, and we've got our base secured, and we're ready to start thinking about embellishing. How are we going for time? Got a little bit of time. Yeah, it's nicely secured. It's certainly not going to go anywhere. So I need to dig out the beads that I had with this project, with the little pink ones. So I will need to find those. There should be thread still in the box here. Yep, still got the thread. That's a DMC that Susanna picked up in Paris. I have since found it online, and it's just the best gold thread I've ever stitched with. It doesn't disintegrate in your hands like some of them do. Some of them are really, really obnoxious to use. That one's good. It's like it's a creamy coloured thread, and then they've rolled the gold thread through it. You can see that. It's got a really nice shimmer. This is a champagne, but the gold thread is plaited through other threads. So it's really strong. So as you drag it through your fabrics, using it, it just doesn't fall to bits. Okay, so that's that side done. Gee, that's real straight, isn't it? Looks straightish, that side, so it must be just an illusion. Okay, so what was I doing? Oh, look, I was going to go there, didn't I? And I didn't. I just went there. Okay, forget about that idea. So we're going straight down here now. Now, this just by itself would look pretty, but no, we're going to really bling it up. I'll have to, I use these little bags all the time. Well, I've got two. So let's be accurate. I use the two all the time because I've got the Japanese fabric in one and the French fabrics in the other. So it's for my special things. And then the hexagon squishy bag came along, which is pretty much the same principle except 6 sides and the base is a hexagon. And that's more of a project bag. So I'm thinking I might actually make some more linings, because they're all the same, except these ones I joined on the sewing machine just to get it going. And just have them put aside for experimenting a new style or technique or whatever. And I've used a calico canvas. So it's a calico but it's quite thick. Can be just sold as canvas. I've had many of you ask about it, and I think this has been washed. It's quite lightweight. If you have a look at some of the canvases, they are really heavy. That is not the product I've got here. If you can't find what I'm talking about in your local shop, just use calico. It'll be more than enough. If anything, this has made this product quite firm, which is hard work on my hands, but I like it because it's allowed the sides to stand on their own. If this was made out of just fabrics with no wadding or anything, it probably would be literally it would be the Japanese rice bag that is a soft, sloppy feeling project bag, and it would just collapse and they'd put a cup or two of rice in it to carry rice. That's sort of where the idea, I believe, has come from. And it's landed squarely into the world of what we are all doing, with many adaptations. In the description, you'll see some great videos on how to make the traditional Japanese rice bag. Well, I watched all of those and then started heading off on my own little tangent here and making it a hand-stitched, storage caddy, really. And the first two, like I said, was lickety-split. Out they came in a proper project, one episode after the other for you guys. But this one's been more of a exploring it. No rush to finish it. I knew my theme, shabby chic. So it's just a case of developing it as needed. Okay, so, oh gosh, I got a mess. I might just flip it over and I'm going to trim back, but I'm just going to allow a few extra mil. It won't matter, just so it looks nice, and that's pretty good. That probably could be trimmed a little, but doesn't really matter because it sort of all joins to the side of the bag, and the messier the better. Okay, so we did layers upon layers of all sorts of things. So let's get the sari silk out. I might just start fiddling around with it just to give you a bit of an idea of what I'll do. Then I might come back in another video. I thought it might all happen pretty quick, but now that we're not going to our friends for dinner, it might be a little time before I get back to it. We'll see. I might be inspired to sit down tonight and stitch on it. So we'll play it by ear. Here's that pink ribbon. How do we want to do this? Do we want to follow the principle of the bag, or do we go off the log cabin, or do we just focus on the squares? That's interesting. I'm thinking along the lines of focusing on each panel to keep the blockiness of it. Because if I start going over everything like that, past the line, it's going to look a little bit like that, and I'm going to lose the feature that is the log cabin, you know, the sections. Oh, I did like that pink there. Yeah. I'm going to stay within each section. Otherwise, I will muddy it up. Geez, there's a technical word for our slow stitch. You don't want to muddy your design, folks. That really could do with an iron. I got a little flat bit there. So if I went there, I could do another piece over there, but it doesn't look as good. I think I'll go there. So once I get these decorative elements laying down and invisible stitched, I then can come back with thread and do the fly stitch, more running stitch. There's some of these here. These are Steph Francis variegated threads. You get like a whole shank with all these different threads on it. So that'll be sort of the next stage. But let's just get some texture down within each square, I think is what I'm going to try and attempt. Tempted to put a bit more of that pink. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll cut a little bit past, so I've got a little bit left. Might be enough to put a hint of it on the next panel, unless we explore that landscape theme. Okay, so what else can we do? I need some more lace, don't we? A little bit more sari silk. I might put another piece through. Just trim it a little bit past where I know I need it. So, lace. I need something soft. Let's grab the scrap bucket. It's sort of like creating a window around our flowers, isn't it? So what have we got in here? See, we're looking in the scrap bin. We might as well put that piece back. I did have a little piece of white lace on that. That really brings that shabby chic in. It's probably a bit wide. Oh, I do like that. But I like taking little elements out of that. I don't think I want to use it on that. Got some little flowers here. I haven't used them on any of the pieces. That'd be rather cute. Oops, now I've got things falling on the floor. I like that. A little row of flowers along there on the side of that sari silk. That's a bit cute. And they at a stretch fit. Let's chop those off. They've now found a home. So, I don't know, did I say a second ago that what I'll do is invisible stitch all of these little pieces down. That gets rid of the pins because it's about to be a minefield of pin pricks. Then I'll start stitching in actual, detail. So what else have we got? Could do some decorative pieces too. But is that changing my style? It sort of is. Well, that colour looks a bit odd anyway. Yeah. Stay focused, girl. Stop it. What else have we got? I used some of the dyed fabrics, dyed laces over here. So I could... I feel like I'm getting very chunky. I need to find something, here we go, something smaller and daintier. Yeah, this little guy will be good. Just in there as a little detail. Oh, Willie, can I do better? Yes, there. I like that one. You see how you start building up layers? I do like that over there. Yep, that's going over there. Another pin. Oops. Another pin there. Okay, so I still need something for there, or do I just leave it for a moment? So I did lay down some real pale cream ribbon. I don't think I have any in the... Oh, I've got stuff everywhere now. Do we put a little piece of that in? No, I think that's enough because I'm going to do things with those types of products as well to add layers. I think for now that's enough. And what I might do is just get this invisible stitched down, then I will come back in the next video. I was thinking I'd have all this finished in one video, but I don't think I will because I'm not going to be working on it tonight. So I think we'll just see how it goes. I'm just going to now catch these little bits down so I can get rid of those bits, the pins. So just some quick little stitches, tiny itty bitty stitches on the top, scoot through about 1 centimetre and bring my needle back up. And it really is just holding them down until I'm ready to really put layers and bits and pieces in there. It's a really great way of using your scraps up. Okay, now I might turn around and see if I can catch those little flowers. So I've got to get back down, come up. My needle is quite thick, so stitching sometimes densely embroidered little elements like these flowers can be hard to push the needle through. So often I use a beading needle, which is fraught with danger because you're pushing a very fine little needle through a very dense piece of lace, and you do run the risk of it pushing back into your finger, so please be very careful. So I'm sort of aiming for between each of those little petals, there's tiny little stitches there where the machine that made it has jumped across to start the next little satin stitched flower. So if I can get my needle up through those little gaps, it'll be just enough to hold it. Without pushing the needle back into my finger. Okay, so this will come together. So, and I've got rid of that. So that side on that little piece is now complete, and I've got that nice squished piece of sari silk. So if anyone out there doesn't know what sari silk is, I first found it in the junk journal world, and we were using it to tie around journals. So it's silks from the manufacturer of saris and silk fabric products, and they seem to be using them a lot for adorning journals. So it's often a piece that's been joined. You'll have a little seam here, but if you give it a bit of a tug, it can give way. So I sort of went away from using it a little bit, because you'd go to tie off your journal and the thing would just fall to bits. So it's been sitting in my stash there, and I've started pulling it out and using as a highlight fabric when creating different surfaces, you know, giving a bit of texture. And probably the Journal of Stitchery really brought it back out, because it was just another little element I could use when collaging together my scene, whatever it may be, a bit of detail on a butterfly or a rabbit, who knows. So I've got a few little rolls of it. I found them on Etsy. So if you type into Etsy sari silk, you should be able to find someone who's selling it. And then you'll have just, I guess, another style of fabric in your stash. And it's really, really interesting to work with, because it's got a bit of a shimmer. It feels beautiful to touch. So it can often really make your work pop if you just... It frays really easily, so it sort of gives you lovely little edges. So I'm a bit of a fan of it again. It sort of was, oh, why did I spend my money on that? But now I'm finding I'm using it more and more, because it's just part of creating texture. So I hope that's answered the sari silk questions that I get from time to time. Okay, I'm going to have to end that off. It's getting a bit small. Look at the time. Gosh. Just flies. I'll just do a little bit more. So if you need to go and do your vacuuming, off you go. But we're going to hang back and just stitch this last bit. And then what I'll do is, so today's Sunday, isn't it? What I might do is I might just pick this up in a week's time, and we'll have another play with it, if that's okay with you guys. What have I done? I've got it all knotted up. It's a good Sunday project. That's what this is. When I didn't want to think too hard, sort of had an idea. The desk was full of bits. So I thought, right, I'm going to pull out my little Shabby Chic project that's ticking along in the background and have another little play. Yeah, I'm glad I followed the pattern and didn't just overrun it, because I would have probably looked at this in the future and gone, oh, I wonder what that was. At least now I can still look at it and go, log cabin. So I'm just going to dodge back through this sari silk and make sure I catch it. Some of it was under that lace, so it got caught on the first line through, but it hasn't caught all of it, which is fine. So I did talk about the canvas. You don't need to use the canvas. You can just use calico. You can use really anything. It's just that I picked up a big heap of it at a recycling fabricy place, and I thought, oh, for someone like me, base fabrics, that's handy. I'll take that, thank you very much. All right, so that's tacked down, so that's good. Oh, there's just not enough time in an hour. Goodness me. Now we're really over, I'd say. I think we did 30 odd minutes and then I paused it and I've come back. Okay, so I will just, while I'm here, I'm just going to tack that down, tack the ribbon down, and then I'll leave it at that, pack it up, pull it out probably in a week's time and have another little play. So there you go. There's the start of our really organic log cabin. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Look after yourselves and yeah, see you all in the next video. Bye.